Sometimes you can find yourself away from home, but you need to access the equipment that's in your house. Now, just as an example, I've been working from home for a while, so I have some equipment here in my home office that I need to access to be able to do my job. So if I'm away from home and that equipment isn't running, I need a way that I can switch it on and that I can use it and I can access it remotely. Now, there are plenty of solutions for remote access, such as SSH and VNC and other technologies like that, but they all have limitations. An alternative to give you full control over your equipment is a KVM, and there are plenty of solutions out there for it, and some of these are based around a Raspberry Pi. Let me show you an example. Hello once again, Pi geeks and techno nerds all around the world. My name's Jeff, and I'm an IT professional who's been in the industry for over 30 years. I've been using Raspberry Pi since they first came out, and I wanted to share with you some of the projects that I've done over the years with them. If you like what you see on this channel, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell so you can be told when I put a new video out. Let me know in the comments how you get on with this project, and if you've got any other ideas for projects you'd like to see me do in the future, put those in there as well. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, there are remote access solutions such as SSH and VNC that work perfectly well if you need to access equipment that's already running. And you can set up a VPN in order to be able to access all of those things securely. But what if you need to access your PC's BIOS settings? What if it's completely crashed and you need to reboot it? What if you need to entirely rebuild your PC and reinstall the operating system, but you're thousands of miles away from your house? For those kind of use cases, you need what's called a KVM, or keyboard, video and mouse. It's a device that connects to your computer and allows you to remotely access the video that's being generated from it and also provide keyboard and mouse inputs into it, so you can completely drive your computer remotely. And because this doesn't need any special software running on your PC, you can even access things like the BIOS, or you can do key combinations like a Control-Alt-Delete, or even remotely control some of the buttons on your PC. Now, there are many of these on the market, and a few years ago, I picked up a PIKVM. Now, this is a specialist hat that connects to a Raspberry Pi. However, I really should stress that these aren't really cheap. Enterprise-grade KVM solutions can cost thousands of pounds. As you can see here, the PIKVM3, which is the model that I've got, still retails for well over $200. So it is certainly a premium product. Not everybody needs one of these, but sometimes you can find yourself in a situation where they're invaluable. And certainly if you're working from home and you've got equipment that you need to be able to access remotely, I would say it's a very, very sound investment. Now, before I go any further, I want to make it absolutely clear this is not a sponsored video. I am going to be talking a lot about the PIKVM product, but I bought this with my own money. PIKVM themselves have not been involved in any way. This isn't really a review as such, it's more talking through what you can do with KVM solutions. So I'm not trying to promote the PIKVM product directly in any way. However, obviously, I've gotten on very well with it and I do like it, otherwise I wouldn't be using it. So what do you get for your money? The PIKVM product is a hat that sits on top of your Raspberry Pi. And you can see that in this image here. There's a normal Raspberry Pi 4 on the bottom, and then you can see the PIKVM hat sat on top. Its primary connection is this ribbon cable that you can see here. The ribbon connector plugs into the MIPI port on the Raspberry Pi 4, and this allows it to capture the video data. But there are plenty of other connectors as well. Looking at the front edge, you can see the Raspberry Pi's normal USB and network connection, but on the hat at the top, you also have two USB-C connectors and another RJ45 socket. Now, the USB connector that you can see on the left is the power connector for the PIKVM, and this is used to power both the PIKVM and the Raspberry Pi. You don't need separate power connections for both. The middle USB-C socket and the RJ45 socket are actually for terminal access into the PIKVM. You don't need to connect to this through the GUI. If you do connect a serial console to those ports, then you could access the KVM from a terminal and control it. Although obviously, if you did connect to it in that way, you wouldn't be seeing the video output and stuff like that. It's more for controlling the PIKVM itself. On the reverse side, you can see on the left another RJ45 connector. I'll be talking about this a little bit later in the video, so I'm going to skip over that for now. The vertically mounted USB-C connector that's in the middle is used to connect to the server that you're trying to control. And it's through this that the keyboard and mouse controls will be sent to your box. The HDMI socket on the right is what you connect your HDMI cable to from the PC that you're trying to control. And as I mentioned before, that video data then travels down the ribbon cable to the MIPI port on the Raspberry Pi. You can also get a pre-built metal case for all of this, and it's really well built and very, very sturdy. However, you don't have to get this. PIKVM do provide 3D printing instructions where you could print your own case. There's also a fan built into the case as well to keep everything cool. There are also a number of little spacers here that are used to make sure that the Raspberry Pi and the PIKVM hat don't come into contact with the metal case, as that could cause short circuits, and we don't want that. This is a small USB-C coupler, and this is what's used to allow the PIKVM to also power the Raspberry Pi. This effectively bridges the connection into the Raspberry Pi 4's power input. There's also a small little LCD display that you get with the kit, and I'll show you what information this shows you a little bit later. Once everything's put together, it looks like this. It's really a very well built and sturdy device. Now, when you've got the hardware all put together, you then need to install the software. PIKVM provide a really good website detailing how to construct everything, complete with video guides on how to put the hardware together, and there's also really good instructions on how to install the software as well. Essentially, the process for the software is really straightforward. You just pull the appropriate operating system image based on the version of PIKVM that you have, and then you use the Raspberry Pi Imager software, just like you always would, to flash this to a micro SD card that you can then put in your Raspberry Pi. Once your PIKVM is up and running, on the little display that it shows, it'll be cycling round between this view that tells you how long the PIKVM has been up and what its temperature is, and then it will flip over to showing you which network interface is connected and what its IP address is. If you've got an Ethernet as well as a wireless LAN connection, it will show you both on separate screens. You can also see on here what the CPU load is and how much memory has been used. You can then access the web interface for the PIKVM by entering its IP address into the address bar of your browser. And once you've logged in, you'll be greeted with this page here. If you just click the KVM button, this takes you onto the basic control page. You can click this button here to expand the view to fill up your browser window. There's also an option to make it full screen if that's what you want. Now here, you can see that as I move my mouse pointer around, my actual mouse is represented by the dot, and then the normal mouse pointer arrow is following that a fraction of a second behind. It is really very responsive, but don't feel that you could do anything like play games or anything like that on here. It's not responsive enough for that. And I can then just type in my password and log into my system. And here you can see that I'm on my desktop. I can come down to the menu. I can use the system exactly as if I were directly connected to it. I can also send normal control commands, like if I press Control D, that will cause my terminal window to close. There are some limitations as to what key combinations you can put through, but there is an option both to have a virtual keyboard and there are some predefined key combinations that you can select from a menu. On the main menu, if I go to shortcuts, then you can see these here. So I could send the caps lock button, the Windows buttons, Alt Shift, and various other key combinations that you wouldn't normally be able to do. There's also Control Alt Delete, just in case you need to send that through as well. Now, one of the most important differences between using a KVM and using other remote access solutions is if I reboot the box here, you will actually see all of the output from the PC, even during the BIOS stage and the original post. Like here, you can see it's giving me the prompt to enter BIOS. and here where it allows me to select which version of the operating system I want to go into. None of these kinds of options would be available to you if you were just relying on SSH or VNC, since those need software running on your server in order to be able to access them. Here, you can access your PC no matter what state it's in. Now, one thing that can be a bit tricky whenever you're using a KVM solution is entering the BIOS, because you normally have to hit a specific function key during the boot process. In my list of shortcuts, these aren't shown, as I have to hit F8 repeatedly during the boot cycle. Under the System menu, there's an option to show a virtual keyboard, and you can see that here. Now, if I just shift this down so it's a bit out of the way, and then I go to reboot my machine, what I can do now is repeatedly hit the Del key, which is what I need to be able to access the BIOS. And you can see that's now dropped me into the BIOS. I can close my keyboard here just with the close control, and now I can make any changes that I need to in the BIOS of the machine. And again, with SSH or VNC access into it, you wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing. So here I could do things like overclock the PC, change its memory options, set up secure boot, all of those kind of things. And then just save changes and reboot the machine just like you always would within BIOS. Here, I'll just click discard changes as I haven't made any changes and exit out. It's just the proof that you can get into the BIOS using the virtual keyboard. Another feature of PIKVM that I think is absolutely awesome is that you can make it behave like a virtual flash drive. You can click this drive option up here, and what you can then do is take ISO images or .img files, and you can make those behave just as if you plugged in a flash drive to your system. To do this, you just click this button here to select the image you want to upload, and then click the button here to choose your file. Once you've done that, you could then click this upload button to upload that onto the PIKVM. Now, since this takes a little while, I've already preloaded an Ubuntu ISO image onto the PIKVM. If I open this drop-down menu here, you can see my Ubuntu live image ISO is available for me. If I select that, the first thing it tells me is that it's too big to be used as a CD-ROM. There are limits as to how much data you could put onto a virtual CD-ROM. So if you exceed that, you just have to click the flash option. This then makes the PIKVM behave like a USB flash drive. I can then just click connect drive to server. And there you can see that our virtual USB flash drive has now popped up on the box. I can select the option here to show the files on the virtual drive, and you can see they're all there and all visible. Now, what's really neat about this is that this will survive a reboot as well. So if I bring up my virtual keyboard, and again, I'll just move it out of the way, and then I reboot my PC, while it's going through the boot sequence, I can repeatedly hit the key that I need to in order to bring up the one-time boot menu. And here you can see that my virtual flash drive has shown up as a boot option. Now, if I select that, I can actually boot from this, and it'll take me through into the Ubuntu Linux installer. I could entirely reinstall the operating system here, and I could do it from thousands of miles away. Now, I don't want to entirely rebuild my PC right now, so I'm not going to go any further with this. But you get the concept. If your machine is entirely broken and you need to completely reinstall the operating system, you can do, and you can do it entirely remotely. It's amazingly powerful. Now, the last bit of functionality that I want to talk about here is probably the piece de resistance of this PIKVM solution. Just for now, I'm actually going to power off this machine. Now that's powered off, all of the virtual keyboards in the world won't help me. I can't switch the PC back on. It's actually entirely down. Now, some PCs do support a technology called Wake on LAN, where if there is something that you can connect to, and let's say the PIKVM, and you can log into it, you can send a particular set of bytes to its network port, and then that will cause it to power on. However, my PC doesn't support that. But remember that other RJ45 socket that I said that I'd come back to later? This is an absolute godsend for these kind of situations. If we look at how that's labelled in the final packaged product, you can see it's labelled ATX. Now if you plug a perfectly normal network cable into this, the other end of it plugs into this little daughter board that you can hide inside your PC. And there are then provided jumper wires that you can use to connect through to the front panel header pins that are provided on your motherboard. And what this allows you to do is simulate things like pressing the power button on your PC case. Going back to the PIKVM UI, you can see against ATX, there's a little power switch icon here. If I click that, it gives me the option of doing a short power click or a long power click, or I can hit the reset button. So if my PC is entirely locked up and completely unresponsive, where you'd normally want to do a long power press to power the machine off, you could do that. In the case where it is powered off and you want to power it on again, you could do a short power click. Now, apologies for this camera being a little bit shaky. I'm just holding it here just above my PC. If I click the option to do a short power click and I confirm that I want to do that, you can see it's powered up my PC and it will start entering the boot cycle. And then I can just log in and get back to my desktop just like normal. Now, once again, I do want to stress, I'm not trying to badge this video as being a review of the PIKVM, although I know it's probably felt like that. I just really wanted to give you an overview of what KVM technology can do and how it is so different to other remote access technologies that are out there. There are also many alternative KVMs available. PIKVM is only one of them. Even within the PIKVM ecosphere, there are multiple versions available. I've got a PIKVM version 3, but there is a PIKVM version 4 available in 2 different form factors. Now the PIKVM version 4 Mini is based around a Pi-4 compute module, and so it's a much smaller unit. It's really kind of cool. Still has all of the features. Also, PIKVM version 4 also supports higher frame rates. So if that's important to you, then it's worth considering. However, they are a lot more expensive, and personally speaking, I think prohibitively so. For the purposes why I would need a KVM solution, I don't really see where I could benefit from higher video frame rates. Your use case may be different though, so look around for the product that's right for you. One other product that's been quite heavily pushed on a number of YouTube channels is this, the JetKVM. Now this promises to be a very low cost KVM solution for home users. As you can see here, it's slated to start from only $69. Now this is way cheaper than things like the PIKVM, but also tread carefully here. This is just a Kickstarter right now, and whilst they've way exceeded their original funding target, it doesn't change the fact that there's always the risk that you could put in your $69 donation to them and then end up with absolutely nothing. But from all of the reviews that are there online, it does look like a really exciting little product. The one big question mark I have is the ability to do things like virtually press the power button on your PC. Within the documentation, it does mention this ATX board extension, and that would allow you to do all of that. But there isn't a lot of information about how much that would cost. And when you look at some of these other extensions that they're proposing for power and generally for other potential functionality, that $69 may start increasing fairly quickly. Now, obviously, my channel right now is way too small to get their attention. So unlike some of the bigger players like Craft Computing, Jeff Geerling, etc., I've not been sent one of these to test with. I have paid to get into the Kickstarter, and assuming I do get one sent through, I'll let you know how I get on with it. But do just Google around for KVM solutions and find the one that's best for you, both in terms of price and functionality. You may not even need one at all. It is quite a niche product, but I hope through this video you've seen just how useful they can be. But that's it for this video. Once again, if you like what you see here, please hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell so you can be told when I put a new video out. Do you need or use KVMs for your day-to-day work? If so, let me know in the comments. And like always, if you've got any ideas for other projects that you'd like to see me do on this channel, put those in there as well. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and until next time, bye for now.